There.
Try again. Thank you. Good idea. Ready? All right, fabulous. So the first thing I wanted to start with this evening, thank you, Heidi, for the thumbs up, is with the list of services here that are offered in our college, specifically at Equity Program, just so that you are all made aware of what we provide for all of you. And so just know that every service, for the most part, that we've previously provided is continuing virtually and by appointment. And so when it comes to all the advising in terms of the academic component, right? So if you have questions about your classes, questions about your major, your concentration, the integrated certificate, the ACT option, on track to teaching, how to add a bilingual authorization, or a supplementary or an added authorization to teach additional subjects, that's possible as well. We also work closely with local schools and local districts, and so we do have long-standing relationships with a lot of these partners. So we constantly refer students to, you know, some of these individuals for further fieldwork experiences. The peer mentors and tutors also will provide you with more info about their own experiences in the program once we get to that piece. But a big part of what they do is assist students on the CBEST and the CSET. The CSET remains the main challenge to becoming a teacher in the state, at least with the students that we serve, which is why we offer, you know, these services when it comes to mentoring and tutoring, and really just providing a clear understanding and a clear picture of how to prepare for these exams. And then we also help students pay for these tests, because we understand that when you're first generation and when you're working and going to school, you already carry a lot of weight in everything that you're doing. And so we're trying to offset any further challenge by helping students pay for these exams. And so that is also a service that we can provide for all of you. We assist with supplemental and CSU applications, as well as the scholarship applications. So the supplemental is the College of Ed application. The CSU apply is the university application, which you need to complete both to apply to our credentialing programs. We also assist, like I mentioned, for any assistance on your scholarship applications, and then of course the information sessions that we offer. I'd like to read to you all our mission statement for our credentialing branch, and that's prepare teachers and leaders to be agents of change, committed to social justice, equity, and inclusion in culturally and linguistically diverse schools and communities. I'd also like to mention that Sacramento State considers all eligible applicants for admission into our educator preparation program. So if you are a DACA recipient, just know that you are in fact eligible for our credentialing program. We do recommend that students visit the Dreamer Resource Center on campus. They are available virtually as well this fall, and they do have visiting attorneys that provide legal advice regarding your immigration status. So we don't do that in the college. I will not provide any kind of advising when it comes to your status, especially if you're having questions about renewal. But I do want everyone to know that you are eligible for our program if you are a DACA student. Our college at a glance. So every year we award about 500 degrees and about 300 credentials, including 10 to 20 doctoral degrees. Annually, we care for about 1,700 undergrad students and almost 1,000 grad students. Our college is rebuilding its strength and gaining new resources, learning to be innovative and entrepreneurial. I included the College of Ed social media link down there for anyone who's interested to check us out. So let's jump right into the requirements, right, to obtain a teaching credential. So for students that want to work in K-12, that want to teach in K-12, you do need a credential. And these are the three kinds of credentials that we offer. We have one in multiple subjects to teach elementary, high school or middle school, that's the single subject. And then special ed is K-12 if it's mild, mod, severe, or early childhood refers to infants to toddlers. And of course, special ed refers to working with students that have special needs. The high school, middle school, single subject list is provided here. So these are all of the programs that we offer that we prepare our candidates to teach, in case anybody is wondering. And do feel free to ask questions if anybody has any questions. I can't see everybody on my screen. I do apologize. So if you are raising a hand, I can't see you. So feel free to unmute yourself. I'll pause in between to see if anybody has any questions. So the next slide refers to the requirements to become a public school teacher in California. So there's two major requirements needed. And the first is to prove that you know the content that you want to teach. And you prove that you know by one of three ways. We refer to this as subject matter competency. The first way and the ideal way is to major in a subject matter program. Most of our candidates that know that they want to be teachers will do that, but that's if they know early on. For candidates that decide later on that they want to teach, then they can take what's called a CSET. And we'll get to those in a minute. So it's number one, major in the program that you want to teach, the content, and complete a waiver program. We have a variety at Sac State. Number two, complete the CSET. Number three, double major. When you double major, if you're maybe finishing up, maybe you're, I don't know, an ethnic studies major, that's 36 units. And maybe you want to teach English as well, something random. That's a possibility. We don't see the third option as often, but it's also a possibility. The second requirement is to complete the pedagogical competency requirement, and that just means that you demonstrate that you know how to teach. And that's by completing a teacher preparation program or a credentialing program. Questions?
I have a quick question.
No. Go ahead.
I had a quick question for the previous slide. So with that second option, would that be for multiple subject majors?
It could be. Heidi, what's your major?
I'm liberal studies, elementary education, and then I think I'm specializing in multicultural. And I'm doing multiple subjects. So would that be my that would be my option, right? The second choice.
No, so Lib Studies has a waiver program. So by majoring in liberal studies, you're completing the subject matter competency requirement. So Heidi, you should not have to take the CSET, and that would be multiple subjects, but you should verify that with your advisor in Lib Studies.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Good question. This is really important, and I want to talk about this for a second here and really make sure everybody understands this option. So, and if it's too late for you, then that's fine, but think of other people that maybe you know that would benefit from this information, and please pass it along, because it really does matter for students that know earlier on that they want to teach. And this is referred to the on track to teaching option. What that means is that traditionally candidates take up to 4 years to complete their bachelor's degree, sometimes more, rarely less, right? But it's usually 4 years to complete your bachelor's, and then they complete a teacher preparation program or a credentialing program in 1 year. On track to teaching just means that students can actually complete their bachelor's in 3 years, and then the credential in 1. And so it could just shorten the time, to obtain both your bachelor's and your credential. It could save you a whole year. And this is how. You have to have all of your major requirements completed, your GE and your GR. So again, you have to have all of your major classes completed, lower and upper division, your GE, same lower upper division, GR. And if you're short the 120, you can still start a credentialing program that fall semester. I'll give you an example. Just today, I was supposed to meet with a student and I needed to call her because she was a no-show. But my point is that I spent some time looking at her transcripts, and I found that after the semester, she's gonna have 112 units, excuse me, after May, 112 units. So most likely, because 99% of the students I see think that because they're short the 120 in a spring, now they have to take, an additional semester of classes that they may or may not need of potentially unrestricted units to add up to the 120. So if students are majoring in programs that are shorter, that require 30 to 40 units, they're gonna be short the 120. So on track to teaching just means that if they're done with their major G and GR, they don't have to spend an additional fall semester to graduate. They can start, like the student, if she wants to, they can start the credential program next fall with 112 units because they're done with all their major GEGR. So if the student does start next fall, she's gonna use some of the units from the credentialing program to count towards her bachelor's. So she'll graduate with her bachelor's next fall of 2021. And then she'll graduate with her credential in spring of 2022. Kind of cool, huh? Now you might be thinking, well, it's just a year, ¿qué tanto es? It's not so much. Well, for some of us as we get older, and even when we're younger, a year is a lot of time, yo. And so when you think about it, if you're trying to start a credentialing program at Sac State, unless you're interested in a special ed program, all of our other programs are only offered in the fall. So yeah, you have to wait a whole year. Now, number-wise, because if we're looking at it mathematically, in terms of numbers, you're pretty much throwing away 60,000 bucks because that's how much you'll make potentially first year teaching. In Sacramento schools, teachers make about 46,000 a year. Don't quote me, but it's an average in the local school districts. You can look up this information online. Just look up the salary schedules for the local school districts and you can see. But what you see though, is just for the academic year. And that's from August to May or June. So if you're a first year teacher, second year teacher, and you're teaching after school and you're teaching summer school, and there's other ways to make more, then you're gonna make more money. Because again, those salary schedules are what teachers are contracted for, right? And so I think that's my point. When it comes to waiting a whole year, I look at it like that because I'm like, whoa, that's like 60,000 I could be making. But at the end of the day, I just give students the information and then they're the ones, y'all are the ones that make your own decisions, right, about what it is you want to do. But just know that that's an option, the on track to teaching pathway. Any questions about that? No questions. The other option that I want everyone to know is the Accelerated Child Development and Teaching Act pathway. So what this means is that students can complete their bachelor's degree, their multiple subjects credential, and their special ed credential MALMAD in 4.5 years. That's huge. So again, traditionally candidates take 4, sometimes 5 years to get their bachelor's, and then another 2 years for the dual credential, which is special ed and multiple subjects, right? That's 6 years. But now if students have this information and if they know about ACT, they can finish in 4.5. And we have a roadmap and advising forms for students that are interested. And so if you or somebody you know is interested, let me know. And I'm happy to forward it with you and send it along. Okay, bilingual authorizations, y'all. This is why I wanted to focus today's info session for our bilingual candidates. If you are multilingual, if you are fluent and you can read, write, and speak Hmong and or Spanish, then you should definitely apply for a bilingual authorization. It's always good to have it and to think you don't need it and then later use it versus not getting it because you think you don't need it and then later you do need it, right? And believe me, I do see students that complete our credentialing program that then come back or will let me know, like will email me and say, hey, Karina, how do I do it? I didn't finish XYZ, but I'm gonna, apply, or I'm trying to apply for this job or that job within their schools or their districts, and now they require it, they need it. So it's always good to have it and prepare yourself, right? And so knowing what's required early on is gonna save you time and money. So bilingual authorization, the main thing is that it's gonna prepare you to specialize and work with emerging bilingual students who are designated English language learners. All students in the state of California that go through a credentialing program, just so you all know, are going to be required to take the coursework and be prepared to teach ELA, ELD, and CEDI. So you don't need the bilingual authorization to teach CEDI and ELD. But if you have it, then you have that and more. And so there's not that many jobs at secondary level where you can teach in a bilingual setting. It's possible. So I'll give you an example. San Juan Unified had a program with one of our graduates who was teaching high school classes to classes that, you know, were Spanish speaking in Spanish. And so she was teaching ethnic studies, and she's a social science credential teacher in English and Spanish, which is really cool, but it's really not as often as it's used at the elementary level. And that's because most dual language programs or bilingual programs are going to be at the elementary level. So it's something you certainly want to have. Now, there are additional requirements. And so if you have a bilingual authorization, you teach for 5 years in some school districts, you'll be more competitive and potentially be able to take on jobs at your school site or your district site, working as an ELA, ELD coordinator or specialist, and a variety of other positions. If you go on to get your master's, then later you can prepare other teachers and train other teachers and then write curriculum. There's so many options for that if you have it and you're able to use it. So I do evaluate transcripts. I'm happy to do that for you if I haven't already. I see some familiar names on here and faces, and so I think I've already done that. But if I haven't, please do let me know so that you have this information earlier rather than later. And so if you are missing a class, you know early on which one it is and which one you can take, whether it's at Sac State or community college. Most students that I see have the classes. If there's anybody on here who's interested in a Hmong bilingual authorization, just know that you can take the EDUC 172 and 173 classes before you graduate. For our Spanish bilingual authorization candidates, you cannot take the 175 until after you graduate and you're in our credentialing program. And it's a 1 semester class, Monday nights as of now. The hours, so you have to have 60 hours documented working in your target community. So this could be paid or unpaid. A variety of activities count. If you're not sure, do let me know. It doesn't have to be, again, in the classroom, like in a traditional setting, especially now. I know with everything happening, things are a little limited, but certainly still possible. And the last requirement that a lot of our students, a majority of our students still need and are missing is the CSET in that target language. And so if you are interested in a Hmong bilingual authorization, that would be the Hmong CSET 2. If it's Spanish, the CSET Spanish 3. If you were in high school and you took the not the SAT, excuse me, the AP test in Spanish or in that language, then you passed, then you have a good chance of passing this one as well. It's a similar format. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So for the requirements, does that mean we can either take, like if I did Spanish, I could either take EDUC 175 or the CSET, or do you take both of them, or how does it work? Both of them?
Yeah,
okay.
Good question. Yeah, it would be both. So there's, as of now, there's no way to waive the CSETs for the target language. We used to, but it's not the case. So even if you have like a bilingual seal of literacy in your high school diploma, it still won't waive it. If you pass the AP test, it still won't waive it. This is with the CTC, with the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. So they kind of make their own rules, you know, about meeting their language proficiency exam. Ophelia? You're muted.
You hear me?
There we go.
Okay, good. So all students have to take 170 and 108 or B. So after 170, we must take 108 and B. And after that, we have to take 36 too.
Yeah, those are prereqs, Ophelia. So the prereqs the ones you just mentioned, those are required for admission for all candidates, regardless if they're bilingual or not, and regardless of which program they apply for. Everyone has to take those 3 or the equivalents.
Got it. Thank you.
Welcome. I want to just throw this out one last time about the CSATs. I feel like it's an additional tax, right? It's like we're taxed additionally for bilingual. It's like, wait, what? So there's another fee? Yeah, there's another fee. So the CSAT Spanish 3. So if you're bilingual, haz de cuenta. So it turns out to, let's see, so the CBES is 102, the CSATs are 297, about 300, and the CSATs for the language test are about 132. So we're talking over $400 or $500, more or less. And if you don't pass your first try, yeah, you have to retake it, and you can retake them. That's why we help you pay for them. And to help to receive financial assistance from our office to help you pay for them, there is some eligibility criteria. Number 1, you should be a financial aid recipient. Number 2, you should be interested in applying for the bilingual authorization. And number 3, you should be first generation. Do you have to be all 3? No. But that would require an appointment with me to see, where you are and what we could do for you. And the other thing too is that we have amazing peer mentors on the call and on our Zoom session right now that are going to tell you more about what they do, and they can help you prepare for these, even if it's not within their target, or their specialization, the language exam. They can still help you and guide you through the whole process. And then last, I want to mention that we do have a resource library. If you're in the area, you can make an appointment and pick one up, or we can have it mailed to you. So don't buy any study books, don't spend anything. Let me know if you're interested. Cool. And email me if you want more information on how to receive test fee waivers to help, pay for these exams, because we do have a protocol. And so I just need in writing that you are prepared to take the test. And the way we verify that is by candidates taking the practice exam. So if you have the test preparation guide, usually I send that to you when I meet with you. If you got that for CBES or CSAT, follow the steps, and then that's how we verify if you're ready or not. If you're not ready, then you meet with one of the peer mentors. And then after various sessions of tutoring, then we can proceed to register you. Testing centers now, that brings me to the next slide, are open, but limited. With COVID and social distancing and other challenges, the numbers of students that used to go into a testing center at once are now being limited, which means that everybody's tests are being pushed back, but that doesn't mean that they're not available. So one of the first things y'all need to know is that you do not have to have your exams completed to get into our program for next fall. Again, you don't have to have CBES and CSAT done or your hours to get into the program for next fall. Should you have everything done before you get into the program next fall? Yes. I'm contradicting myself. I'm aware of that. So it's just so you all know, I can't reiterate that enough for all of our candidates. And Lupita and Mariela, do I have you on? Can I have you speak to that? I'm going to mute myself so they can tell you more about their experience.
So I can go first. We're talking about kind of what we chose. Well, I mean, mine program is a little bit different, but I am in the single subject math credential. I actually was one of those students who, because of my major, I was going to end short, and I was either I had to pick a minor to complete those 120 units. So I got into the blended program at Sac State so that I could, so that I did not have to pick up a minor that I really didn't want to pay for. And so instead, my tuition money went towards the credential program. And so now I'm in the last semester of completing the program. where I'm just focusing on completing my EdTPA and just finishing the last semester of my student teaching. So it was a little bit different from, I think, both Julian and Mariela's experience. But again, that option of being able to start the program earlier because of a major that finishes, so quick, just because of the math major. And again, another big reason why I picked the major was because I didn't want to complete the CSET. I looked at those tests, and unfortunately, they're very, very hard. And just, not just the CSET math, but even even the multiple subject and any other single subject test, they are very tough in itself. And so that's why I decided to choose that major and follow that step. But I know not everybody has a chance to get this information as soon as you decide to be a teacher. So kind of like the main reason why we are here and to help you everyone is so that, you have that support of like students that have seen the test, have taken the test, because we see a lot of students, who like don't pass it on their first time, which is nothing wrong. These tests are definitely difficult, and that's kind of why we're here for, is to help you kind of just go around these tests and be able to become a teacher, which has a lot of like obstacles. So I don't know if that was kind of my little story and the way that I kind of chose. So again, not the most common. There's different ways, and I think Julian or Mariela can talk about their different steps of how they are becoming a teacher.
So for me, it was a little bit difficult. I didn't have an opportunity to select a program that had a teacher preparation emphasis on it because I'm a sociology major. And so unfortunately for me and my major, there wasn't anything that could prepare me for the program like other majors have. So I had to take the CSETs, and the CSETs were difficult. They were challenging. I'm a multiple subject candidate, also in my last semester of student teaching. And also finishing up the TPA like Lupita. And so for me, it was, taking those tests were really difficult. And I actually entered in, I'm a 3-semester candidate. And the reason why I'm a 3-semester candidate was because I wasn't able to finish one of the exams by the deadline that I had. And that just goes to show, that the tests are difficult. I had to take each CSET twice, and thankfully I passed on the second time. But they are pretty rigorous, and they are time consuming. And so my biggest challenge was trying to study for this test while being in the credential program, because being in the credential program, there's no time to really study, right? You're fully committed to doing the assignments, the work that the program asks for, and then on top of that, also student teaching and lesson planning. So for me, it was a little bit different. I did have to take the route of the CSETs, but I had all the resources necessary. The peer mentors that I work with now were also there to support me. And I also just challenged myself and had to organize myself in a way where I was committed to, dedicating a certain amount of hours to study and really take these tests serious. And so, like Lupita says, we're here to support you all and whatever it is that you need. I didn't have a lot of this information either coming in as a student, as a teacher candidate. But that's also because I kind of realized that I wanted to be a teacher a little bit later in my undergrad career. But now that this information is here and available, I'm really thankful for it, and I'm happy to be able to share it with other students and be here to support students in any way that they need to, so they could be successful during this program.
Thank you for that, ladies. We're going to come back to that and revisit the schedules. Let me kind of jump back. I just wanted them to share their experiences. And I know, Julian, you haven't talked a little bit more about your experience. Julian's also finishing up the program. He took the CSETs in social science. Just today, I managed to refer a student over to him who hasn't even started studying for CSET, right, for social science 1, 2, and 3. Which are very extensive and have a lot of breadth and depth. And so, Julian, if you want to speak to that a bit before I jump back to the order here. And Julian did not complete, Julian and Mariela, you did not complete the subject matter programs, which is why they had to take the CSETs. And so for all of you on here, is just to reiterate the importance of these exams. As I mentioned earlier, these are the main challenges when it comes to becoming a teacher before you get into the program, right? Go ahead, Julian.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, just a little bit of background about me. I got my degree in history. I chose to, as an undergrad, I chose not to do the pre-credential program, which is why I had once I came back to school, I had to actually do all the CSETs, and just like Lupita and Maria said, they are challenging. It took me 2 tries to complete the all 3 CSETs that I needed to do for social science. And like I mentioned, we'll talk about the schedule in just a little bit.
Oh, he froze. Julian? Did we
Here to
lose
help.
Julian? Can you all hear me? There you are. All right, Julian, we'll come back to you. I think we're losing you there. No worries. Before we wrap it up, I want to allow some time for Q&A. And if anybody has any questions for anyone, we'll go ahead and respond to you at that point. Thank you, Julian. So the different kinds of credentialing programs we offer. So we have 2 and 3 semester options for multiple subjects, 2 semester options for single subject. For mild, mod, severe, the programs tend to be up to 4 semesters. Bilingual authorizations can be added to any of the credentials. And the other important thing I want to point out here is a Master of Arts in Teaching. The reason it's 1 year after your credential, so yes, you can get your teaching credential in 1 year potentially, depending on what program you do, and then your MAT in the year after. So in 2 years, you can obtain both your credential and your MAT, which is a Master of Arts in Teaching. Now the MAT is exclusively available for candidates that complete our credentialing programs. And the reason for that is because the coursework is embedded in some of your credentialing classes. So when you apply to our credentialing program, you're automatically going to be considered. Doesn't mean you have to do it. But then when you complete the credentialing program, you'll be surveyed and you'll complete, the survey in which you respond whether or not you decide to opt in to continue for the MAT. The other thing about the MAT is that it's only 1 year. It's a Master of Arts in Teaching. It's a master's degree. Just be careful, do your research. Don't jump in. I know it sounds attractive, and it is. It's a good program. Again, it's a master's degree, but I would just encourage students to reevaluate or to think about their career goals long-term. And so if you're aspiring to be, a math professor, then get your master's in math, right? Your master's degree in that discipline in terms of what you want to do professionally, because we do offer a variety of other grad programs that everybody is eligible to as long as they meet the criteria, right? And so I just wanted to mention that in terms of the MAT and our programs. Admission requirements. I've gone over this piece with many of you. It's my cute little 3-page program admission form that I use for my advising. And so you probably have it. This is just a little bit more general, but you do need a bachelor's degree or you're on track to teaching pathway subject matter. So again, a waiver program or the CSET. Basic skills requirement. You may or may not need the CBUS. You need basic skills. So most of our students take the CBUS. If you have qualifying scores on exams, standardized tests like the ACT, SAT, or even AP test scores, those will qualify as basic skills. The other thing about basic skills is that after you've completed 90 units at Sac State and you have basic skills, whether it's CBUS or your SAT scores or whatever other standardized tests, then you can start subbing with the prospective 30-day emergency substitute teacher's permit. So that's an option for students. I know a lot of students share that they don't consider that because they're students and subbing requires you to be present during the school day. But I mean, if you're going to have a schedule and you have a day or two off a week, you could sub those days, right? You don't have to do long-term. The jobs are typically on call, right? So you get called in the morning of, sometimes the day before, the night before. But it's an option. Know that it's there if you're interested. GPA requirements, the prereqs, the hours are 45 hours, but it's 60 if you're interested in bilingual authorization. Now, going back to the hours, you don't have to have the hours completed by next fall, right? Due to COVID and school closures, the CTC has gotten rid of that requirement for next fall. The 2 references are still required. See if you could obtain one, because they are required that you have one of each. One from a supervisor, someone who has seen you working with kids in a professional capacity, and the other one from a faculty member. So someone that could vouch for you from an academic state, right? You're not asking for letters. You're gonna ask them to serve as references to complete these forms that we mail to them. So you provide their email and their names and emails, and then we send them the forms. So you really never see it. Our candidates don't even see, the responses, but they're very specific responses about our candidates' characters, their integrity, their work ethic. Choose and be careful about who you select. Choose individuals that know your work, because if they don't, then they're going to respond NA, 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 and that's not going to help you, right? And so just ensure that who you're asking is comfortable speaking about, your background and your abilities. The essay, all of this is on our website, more specifically, certificate of clearance. Everybody does a group interview. It'll be virtual in May, most likely. And that happens, the interviews tend to happen around March. So again, we get about 300 applications. So our staff reviews all of these applications, and then they coordinate for the interviews. So deadlines are around February, and then the interviews are around March into sometimes first weeks of April. Decisions are made by April and May. This is a sample schedule of the multiple subjects program. We have 2 semester options and 3 semester options, as we shared. So if you look at the schedule for a moment here, you will see that it's very rigorous. I cannot emphasize that enough. So multiple subjects, 2 semester program, your student teaching 2 full days, and then you have classes the other days of the week. The open just means that those are gaps, right, where you don't have classes. Is it possible to work during the program? Well, we have 3 peer mentors here that have been working throughout the program. So for them, it's worked out. If you have a current job that's 8 to 5, it's probably not going to work out. So if you have a weekend job, if you have a job where you're tutoring during the day, where you have some of these gaps and you're able to fit that in for a few hours during the day, that's manageable. But other than that, you won't be able to miss student teaching or your classes at Sac State to work another job. So we do not offer internships. It is possible. It is possible to do an internship, more so if you're in the dual program, the 2-year program, or the special ed program. There's more time for that. But in multiple and single, it's rare. But again, it's possible. Any questions about our schedules? This is the 3-semester program for multiple subjects. Notice you have a little bit more space here, more open time. This program is more popular for students that may not feel like they have all of the preparation completed, right? All of the requirements completed. Maybe they look at the 2-semester and they feel more comfortable with the 3 for a variety of reasons, sometimes personal reasons. Like, for example, they might be working, they might have mortgages, they might have children, they need to be available for their kids, school and their schedule. So do what works for you. And if anybody wants to add, Lupita, Mariela, Julian, to anything that resonates or that you'd like for everyone to be mindful of, please feel free to do so.
I think for me, the only thing because I was still a 2-semester candidate up until December of last year. And so my 2 semesters looked basically the same like my rest of my peers, except for I was only missing the Ed TPA class, which is what I'm taking this semester. But other than that, it was very similar to what they were experiencing. And I don't think even as an undergrad student, I've never had as many classes as I've had in this program, right? Like your first semester can literally be up to 24 units. And you think about it and you're like, how am I going to do 24 units and work and, do my assignments and all this stuff? And it's possible, like it is possible, but one thing that I would like to emphasize, and I do it with all my students, is always take time for yourselves and take care of yourselves as well, because this program is very rigorous, and it's intended to be like that, I believe, but it produces really well qualified teachers. And so all the work and all the effort that we put into this program definitely shows, and it's all worth it. But that doesn't take away the stress. That doesn't take away all the other things that you have to, do as a human being. And so I always tell my students to definitely take time to take care of yourself in whatever way that looks like. Talk to your professors whenever you're going through anything. They're very understanding. They're the most reliable people you can have on your team, and creating relationships with those professors is really going to be a way to help you get through this program, right? And so, stuff happens in life, and the best way to kind of handle those hurdles are by having people on your side, and letting your professors know these things can definitely be very helpful. So just be very mindful of how you take care of yourself, because at the end of the day, like this program, it's going to get you a credential, but if you're not healthy, then how can you really do the work, right? And so, yeah, that's my only advice, because nobody ever told me that going into the program. Like they told me it was rigorous. Like I've heard that plenty of times, but I didn't know what that looked like until I was there. But no one ever told me like how important it also is to take care of yourself while you're doing the work.
Thank you for that. Anybody else?
I'll try to go ahead and add something to it. Hopefully my internet doesn't kick me out again. So yeah, I did the 2-semester single subject. You can tell that it says student teaching. And so what this looks like is during the first few weeks of the semester, you're going to be paired up with a CT or a cooperating teacher, and you're basically going to be observing how they teach. And the expectation is for around week 9, week 10, for you to take over one class, and you're kind of like flying solo almost. You're lesson planning, you're managing the class, grading and doing all that stuff. And then during the second semester, you'll actually be taking over another class. And this is all related to the single subject program. So you're going to be they're going to ease you into the workload. Yeah, so don't get all scared with no one really explained really to me the student teaching aspect. I thought I had to like be ready the first day of school, but they help you ease into it, and you'll take on a bigger role during the second semester. And then one last thing is you can see on the screen that after week 8, you actually have different classes, and they're going to help you with different things. And this is all done on purpose to help you with your Ed TPA and make you more prepared for the second semester. Because usually that's when the stakes are a little bit higher if you do elect the 2-semester program. And then, yeah, I would advise not to try to work. I had some friends that did work during the program and they were fine. but it's just going to add to your stress. And like Mariela said, you got to take care of yourself.
I'll follow up with kind of like the working, not working. It's scary and it sounds like, okay, what am I gonna do for a year? And, you know, we worked and, you know, it was tough. But kind of with that, you know, there is financial aid help. Big thing is do your FAFSA. Because the credential program is not considered a graduate program, so you're not like an actual like a post-grad, it's considered a 5th year, meaning if you're already like a grant recipient, a financial aid recipient, you are likely to get you are likely to still get financial aid. I speak from personal experience. I was able to still get some grants that I was continuing to get from my undergrad. So it is scary to like not have to work because like, at least for me, I've always been working. But again, there is FAFSA support. There's scholarships, which are big. So the College of Education actually has scholarships. And we can also help you through that. Sometimes it literally only takes a click and you're already in the pool for this scholarship, right? And there's hundreds. I've received a couple of the College of Ed scholarships as well, and they're not hard, right? Simple essays that we have always done. And so if, you know, it's possible that you can't work, and that's great. Again, there's also grants, there's scholarships. FAFSA will definitely, you know, even apply. A big thing we say is apply even if you think that you might not get FAFSA, because it's free. And it's not like you have to pay for a FAFSA application. The worst thing they can tell you is, I'm sorry, there's no money, but at least you tried. And sometimes these scholarships, all you have to do is have a FAFSA application. So it is very important that you do that, apply for scholarships. And again, we can all help you through these because we have done it ourselves. So we wanna make sure that students are aware that there is grants and scholarships available for the teaching credential program.
Thank you for that. Thank you, everybody. Good advice, good tips. I think that covers most of what I had here in terms of scholarships and grants. And, you know, just to finish it off, I think it's very important to remember, you know, going back to our mission, that our program does stand for every student. And so in applying to our program, all candidates are mindful that it does take, you know, a lot of effort from their part. And so it is a big commitment, right? Because it's a commitment to this dedication of service to all students. And so going back to what you've all shared, you will be prepared to work with all populations. And I think at the end of the day that's really going to be transformational for you and for the students that you serve, because it really will change your life after you complete the program. You're going to be a professional, right? An educator, and you'll be able to exercise, you know, that level of work at the highest level. And so I know that Sac State's program is very rigorous, but when you're done, you will be prepared to work with all populations. And so with that, if you have any questions, we'd like to open it up for the next about 7 minutes. I do want to be respectful of everybody's time. And so if you have questions, again, feel free to unmute yourself and any one of us can respond.
I have a question. So for DACA recipients, I'm going to fill out my Dream Act application for next year. What would I put when because it'll ask me so would I just put like a 5th year in there for what I'm applying for?
Yeah, are you talking about the FAFSA?
No, for the Dream Act application.
For your Dream Act, Talia, unless anybody here feels comfortable, I would feel more comfortable if you were to see somebody at the Dreamer Resource Center for credentials and see if they can help you fill it out. Para esas preguntas. Yeah. But can you follow up? Yeah, I'm going to make a note of this to check back with you.
Okay. I also have one more question. The interviews, everybody who applies goes through the interview process, or only the people who are being considered go through the interview process?
Individuals whose applications have been screened that are eligible are invited for an interview. So the interview is like the last, piece, the last requirement. So being interviewed doesn't mean you've been selected to be, ¿cómo se dice, accepted. It's just to continue, ¿cómo se dice, to continue the process to be eligible and to complete that last requirement. That's all the interview entails, right? So it's just another requirement for the application. And the reason I say, for candidates that have been screened is because sometimes candidates apply to our program, but then they apply to 2 or 3 other places. So just because they applied doesn't mean that they're going to move forward, with the application process at Sac State, if that makes sense. So we get over 300 applications, but then sometimes candidates don't respond when they're invited for the interview. And so then we some get dropped off there. Others withdraw their applications for a variety of reasons. But yeah, the last requirement is the interview. It's in a group, so you'll be participating in your interview with a panel, typically 2 professors and a group of students, more than 2, typically no more than 5 or 6. Any other questions?
I had a quick question, Karina. So just to make sure, if I wanted to do the bilingual authorization, I taught ELD for 1 year, so that would be okay to use for the hours of experience?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so on your application, you're gonna make a table. And so you're gonna create that table on your own, where you indicate the dates, the description. So Clarissa, and for everybody else, just ensure that you add as many details as possible. So what grade level did you work with? In what language did you provide instruction in? Were these designated students? Did any of the students have IEPs? Tú sabes, anything like that could be more specific is going to be helpful.
Okay.
But yes, that.
I also want to add before we all leave, next week, next Wednesday, we will be having an application workshop. So we will be going through everything you need for the application itself, how to format your documents, what exactly do you need, where to find all this information. So if you follow us on our Instagram, our link will be there. We will be posting our flyer so that you can join us. It will be next Wednesday. And we also do have a recording already on our website if you are not able to join us, but it'd be great if you can, so that way you can ask any questions. But again, we will be going through all the application process, where to start, where to end, and everything in between.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Lupita. Anybody else? Okay, y'all. Well, that does it. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So feel free to reach out to us if you have additional questions. Talia, I'm going to follow up with you. Make sure that you get your application done and completed, and we'll go from there. So you all enjoy the rest of your day and have a good weekend. Thank you, everybody.